What up? What up? Hold on. What up? What up? Looks like we are live. Had to turn on my monitors there for a minute. How's everybody doing? Good to see you guys. Let me go ahead and put the number up so you can join me live if you want to, or you can phone in. Or you can just hang out in the chat. It's up to you. Whatever your heart desires. What's up, Marbles, Beach Fairy, Farmer, Peace Train? Hiawatha, good to see you. Speculation, what up? Nice. Willow, hello. Miss Thang, good to see everybody. What's up, Brett? Haven't seen you in a minute. Purdue. How's everything? Video, audio good? Did you guys get a chance to go watch the interview room? Their live stream from about an hour ago. It's pretty good. It was pretty good, if you ask me. Some things I don't disagree with, but the path, especially Chris, he kind of takes you on a path with him through his mind, you know? It's really cool. I like that approach. It's kind of how I am. So I like visuals. What's going on, Beach Fairy? Anything I like. Glad you made it. What's up, Purdue? Welcome, welcome, Sweets. How are you? Sharon. Who'd I miss? Anna. Welcome. D, good to see you. My guy, Phil. There's my dudes. Where's my guys at? Farmer, Phil. What's going on, Sharon? Good to see you, Jill. Teresa. What's going on, Katie? Thank you. Appreciate the input and feedback. What's up, Sandra? Yeah, it's good to see you. Hey, I saw you over there, Mel. What you up to? What's up, Blind Squirrel? Salutations. Angelina, how are you? Peace Train, welcome. I like that Barb cleared up that, yes, the creek was easily crossed in some areas. Yeah, they got some things wrong, but for the overall, when they hit us with their conclusion, I mean, I agreed. They don't believe that this is, well, they didn't really speak if it was a ritual. They just don't think this was a group of people conducting a ritual. You know, it's just too sloppy for that. Frederica, good to see you. But some of the things that, and I don't know if this was a Freudian slip by Barb, but she said that In the defense memorandum, they have Abby laying on the left, not the right. But I just read it again here, and it doesn't say anything about whether she was on the left or the right. So what that tells me is that her source told her that Abby was on the left. Yeah, but that is true. I mean, all it takes is a few photographs and a couple YouTube videos from people that actually visited the actual crime scene or the creek right there. And it's just funny. You have to, one thing you have to be careful with is the way these manipulator or manipulative types use words, right? It's like a salesman pitch. You could easily say the same thing and change your words, and it'll pull you in a completely other direction. So if their theory is that, not one man and two girls can make it across the creek. So in order to make that story work, right, the water has to be gushing and it's this deadly river with undertow. That's just not the case. I mean, a 3-year-old could cross that and have his head still above the water in most places, right there in that area. Doesn't take an FBI profiler to see that. Some things you can just use common sense, right? What's going on, Frederica? Which question? What was the question? Oh, no, I think you had said something and then I responded to you. If you're talking about the chat in the other live stream from earlier. Barbara said, cold case detective who reviewed the files found the interview. Yeah, but I think see, we got to be careful because there's always that human element. She's doing the best she can to provide the information to the other people who are on the panel, right? So it was her understanding that that's how they found it, that there was a cold case detective or whatever. And that could be true. But the story is really they went back and looked at older tips. So I don't know if they got frustrated with the Wabash River search and all of that weird going ons with Keegan Klein and uh, some person that manipulated him, right? So it could have been some like wild goose chase. They're like, man, we're doing everything we can to figure out what's going on. I think these guys are playing with us. Well, I guess it's time to go back and look at all the old tips. But my only question is, how did they know that they got it wrong, and how did they find it? And why did they blame the FBI originally? You remember that? Investigators tried to blame the FBI and say, hey, it was something that they did on their end. But according to the defense, it was Doolin. You see all this conflicting stuff? It's like, it's so aggravating. Yeah, but I read through the whole crime scene description. Nowhere does it say Abby was on the left or the right. But the only reason I put her on the right is because Court TV put her on the left. And we can use both of those examples, right, to kind of get a look at the crime scene. But the way they do describe it is like the girls were placed in a V. But I'm sure, V's and crosses and asterisks and things like that, you can find those in nature. It just happens naturally. You could take a hand, and I tried this earlier today. You take a handful of toothpicks and just throw it on the counter and count how many runes you'll find. You'll find at least 3, guaranteed. What's up, Moon Crystal? Let me leave that up there. Computer's freaking out. There we go. Maybe that'll help. TTM Fangirl, what's up? Barb seemed to also clear up the splotchy pick some. Yeah, I must have missed that part because that is a question that I asked her. I was like, hey, if this is accurate, well, it's because Chris was commenting on it saying, hey, this looks like arterial spray. So I asked her, hey, is this accurate? But I didn't hear her response on that. So if I missed part of that, can you kind of clear that up? What's up, Anna? The creek might be easy to cross in some spots, but feet would be wet and cold unless correct footwear was worn. BG doesn't look like he has waterproof shoes. Boots lacking planning, perhaps. I don't know. I don't think it's as difficult. I don't. Have you guys never been in a creek? Sometimes I wonder because I get a lot of things wrong, and it's because I don't have personal experience with it. You know what I mean? But one thing I do know is walking through a slimy creek, and it's not that hard. I mean, you could literally run through it and then dive in the deep part, and then start running again. Just bring your knees high, especially if it's only 2 feet deep. And yeah, you can't slip. You'll probably slip more if you have shoes on. So if Richard Allen kept his boots on, and let's say we're even talking about Richard Allen, right? Innocent until proven guilty, but of course we're going to lean towards him because that's what the evidence is telling us. So if he had boots on, I think it would have made it more slippery for him. Hiawatha says, I think they staged it to look like Odinites. Honestly, I don't know if it looks like anything like that. The defense is trying to make it seem as if these runes say, Hail Odin. Okay. So the image they were showing on the interview room was my image. I created that image. This one here. So Barbara's saying that she said the defense stated that she was on the left. That's incorrect. They don't say whether it's the left or the right. So that leads me to believe that her source told her that Abby was on the left. And their heads actually might be a lot closer together, maybe. But one thing I learned, this here is something that you want to do naturally if you're trying to cover something. Anybody that ever tried to make a fire or even try to just throw down sticks, this is something you're going to find in nature. Okay. So the one thing that could be easily found in nature and also is a rune. Sorry, people don't like the way that I enunciate that. It's just the way it is. Get over it. This is something that is a rune and also found in nature. Now, what the hell is this? So this is supposed to be, okay, now I know why they know she's on the left. Okay. So the reason that they say she's on the left is because the message would read, Hail Odin. Okay. So in a way, the defense does tell us that she's on the left. Okay, now it makes perfect sense. Okay, so I'm going to fix this. But this is supposed to say hail, and this is supposed to be Odin. Okay. So if we go back to what Hiawatha said, she says, I think they staged it to look like Odinites. Does this look like Odinites to you? We have to, you can't skip this part because the other part is like what do they what's the word, fantabulous, fantastical, it's fantastical. Oh, it's this, this crazy cult doing sacrifices, and it's attached to one of your POIs. That way you feel all kind of like you feel like a good sleuth there for a minute. Like, oh man, I suspected these guys, and they're not on trial. So they don't need to prove it to you, knuckleheads. And that goes for you, the people that just bought it without looking at it. Because I really don't know. I haven't made up my mind. I feel like I need to look at the information for some time before I just go, oh, yeah, that was my first theory. So obviously I'm right because now that's what these guys are saying. Right? It's a little ridiculous. Anybody that's doing that has no interest in the truth, in my opinion. Or any of these people that say, oh, well, if you were smart or you're not intelligent or usually the people that are running around trying to act smart, I don't really think that those people are very smart. But the people that when they talk and the things that they say, you just are like, okay, this guy knows what the hell he's talking about. He's a very intelligent person. The other people are just too busy. They try to convince you. They're very good at convincing things. That's what that's have you ever watched Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Dennis says, you want to get off with me? That's how they get off, by convincing others. And then it kind of becomes like a wave, like dominoes. If they can convince somebody that you trust, now you can be easily convinced. But yeah, Barbara is 100% right. It was just clear to me. So if this is hail, it would be over here on the left, heads much closer together, and this is supposed to say Odin. Okay, let me pull up my little chart here of the runes. Runes. Sorry, I have a speech impediment. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure I have a teeth amphetamine. A teeth amphetamine. Yeah, I'm losing all my stuff here. Disorganization. Oh, did I share the link? Hold on. Copy. Here's the link if anybody wants to join me. You don't have to. There it is. Well, I guess none of these say Odin. I guess I better find one that says Odin, huh? That might help. Cold Truth says, I think they're just finding a sneaky way to cast doubt as to why their client keeps confessing. Oh, yeah, that brings me back basically to the moral of today's live stream. And this is what I wrote down here. The crime scene should lead you to a theory, not a theory leading you to the crime scene, right? And what I mean by that is everything that these guys reference in this memorandum, they had all this theories presented to them. They had all these photos. You know, you got these somebody who's connected to Libby through a boyfriend. You know, possibly to Delphi, and you have all these weird photos of this person, right, that have been sent over to you. So instead of the crime scene leading you to this person, some dumbass YouTube creator sent the theory to you. That's where you're starting your foundation. It's from information that was provided to you that has nothing to do with anything. So now your task is to take that theory and that information and warp the perception of the crime scene to match what you're seeing in these images. That's why all the information in this memorandum is twisted and warped to fit into this Patrick Westfall and Brad Holder. And who knows? I'm not saying they're not involved. I don't know. All I know is that any verifiable information in this memorandum only it's only about 10% correct when you match the fact with what they state. Like when they talk about Patrick Westfall doing this ritual and he did it 4 feet off the ground. It's not true. This dude's like 6'4" or something like that. He's a tall dude, long arms. And he's up here about almost at about 9 feet, squirting something onto the tree with something. So they didn't look at the video long enough to see, first of all, he's not rubbing anything with his finger. So they lied about that. And if they would have spent any time on it, they would have seen he's actually squirting something out of a small bottle. About 5 feet higher than what they say. So, yeah, was he at a ritual? Yes. Was he doing something with the tree? Yes. That's about all they got correct. So, you can't believe anything that they say in here because they're warping everything. Everything is warped. It's basically like the truth on acid. Peace Train, DNR guy, probably said, I did talk to another witness on the bridge, but I don't remember his name. Dan Doolin? What do you mean, talk to another witness? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Either they're lying about who pointed out Richard Allen, you know, which could be a confidential informant. Then they wouldn't have to give his name, right? I think there's special laws for that. Any of you law enforcement out there, if you can correct me, either if you're in the chat or on part of the replay crew. What are the laws with confidential informants? Do they have to give up their sources to the defense? Or do they just have to provide as much information without providing their name? Gail McCauley, I was at the bridge today at 2 p.m. and the sun was so bright. I couldn't make out the faces of about 7 people on the bridge, so I don't know how the witness saw a face. Well, it would be a different time of year. Right now, the sun is completely in a different position. It's all the way over to the right. In February, it'll be all the way over to your left. If you were standing on the bridge looking towards Delphi, right now the sun is a little bit to the right because it's changing seasons. We're going into fall, right? That's why we just had that big moon. Now, when February rolls around, the sun's going to be all the way more towards the left of the horizon. Or much even, yeah, it should be coming back at that point. Well, I don't know if the sun's coming back, but we should be changing position. The Earth, I believe, is what is moving. What's up, farmer? Been in a shit ton of creeks. Wrestled a motherfucking alligator. Damn. Easy, Dundee. That's not a knife. Needs garlic. Maybe the scene looks as bad as it did because the actual murder occurred at night. No, it didn't. Two p.m. in October, different than 2 p.m. in February. Yep. A lot of gardeners keep a good eye on that sun, see what it's doing. Where you at, buddy? Willow, what's up? The hard part is the sludge underneath the water or when trying to get up on the bank out of the water. Yeah, that's what I believe happened. So this is my theory. And this is going to be a theory based on all the evidence, right? So Richard Allen is there at the trails. He's stressed out. He's dealing with the loss of his brother and the loss of his wife because his wife is now taking care of the mother who the brother was taking care of. He can't take care of the mother because he's no longer living. Somebody has to fill that role. Okay, if she fills that role, he loses the role, his wife, which could be frustrating. His daughter's getting married. Maybe he was financially stressed. Combine all of that with a little bit of mental health issues and alcohol and just being extremely pissed off by, I don't know if anybody has ever been really pissed off before where you're just mad at everything. Some people actually go further than that and go into like blackout rage. So maybe he went there to cool down, and instead of cooling down, he gets to the trails and he had no clue it's a snow day. There's kids all over the place. And every person that he passes, he gets more pissed off. Like, what are you doing here? Maybe he was even going there to get high. Who knows? But I have a feeling him being near the bridge where one of the witnesses puts him right there just before Abby and Libby show up to the bridge. To me, that paints a picture that they may have crossed paths. He came out, take a look at the bridge. He's like, whatever, I'm getting out of here. Starts to leave, and here comes Abby and Libby. They have an interaction. Maybe some words are spoken, or something triggers in his mind, right? Libby looks a lot like his daughter. Maybe there was a trigger there. And instead of him leaving now, he now turns around and focuses attention on the two girls who are very alone at that very moment. There could have been a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling from the victims and their killer or killers. And nobody was there to hear it. If a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? So I think something like that happened. They could have been lured, but right now we just have nothing to attach to that theory, right? As far as facts. But I think it's still pretty good. Still a pretty good theory considering the Anthony shot stuff. So you kind of put that on the back burner there. Secondary, I guess. CJK went out to water the flowers and was outside longer than I meant to be. Let me guess, the neighbor. How you liking that weather? You like it? Small talk. I hate small talk. I can't stand it. Anna says feet would be really wet and cold from crossing the creek and the footwear wasn't somewhat waterproof. Sneakers are great for crossing creeks in warmer months, not so much in winter. I don't think so. Sneakers slip on this it's like a it's an algae that grows on the top of rocks. It's like a green slime. Now, when you walk in sneakers, you'll the rubber and that slime do not mix. Will make it 10 times slipperier than your bare feet. What's up, Sasha? Good to see you. The thing for a witness is you're just passing random person in life until after the fact, and memory is very subjective. Yeah, not only is it subjective, it's just completely, most of the time, just wrong. You know, that's a good point. That's why ever since I started kind of covering true crime, I practice, that muscle, that memory muscle. Try to remember faces and license plate numbers and things like that. What's up, Deja Vu? Were Abby's clothes wet? That I don't know. And I don't know if they would have dried in that cold weather. Maybe in the morning time. I'm not sure. Was there dew on the ground? Cold Truth says, I've been in Minnie Creek. The day I was there, the creek was so high that a deer and her baby were swimming across, but other times it's only a foot or so deep. Yeah, different seasons, the water's going to be at different levels. And I believe in the summertime, it's at its highest. Why was Libby's phone pinging all over town if it was under her body all that night? Well, that comes from Mike Patty, and we know that that happened. I mean, how does he have any clue? So that's obviously secondary information. And if you know anything about cell towers, I think I don't know, it's kind of strange how that works. I think it's going to grab onto whatever it can. Michelle says the left versus right could be dependent of where you are standing. If you are at Libby's head or versus her feet. Yeah, and we have flipped it upside down. And I just don't know if he would be standing right here looking in this direction with a big old tree just kind of standing in the way. But you could be right. Because apparently this would be Hail Odin or Hail. I'm confused. To me, I just see a sloppy crime scene. And I wonder if it would be easier to put clothing on somebody if they were in the water. What do you guys think about that? Because I have a feeling Abby having kind of, I guess she died a little bit slower. I'm assuming that's because the wound wasn't as severe, right? Somebody kind of learning on the job, like, oh wow, like I didn't expect it to be that hard. I got to be much more brutal on the next person here. And that could be why we see the difference in that attack. And if he attacked Abby in the water, she's most likely, even though she lasted longer than Libby probably only lasted like 2 minutes. With that kind of wound, it's quick. It only takes 2 minutes. So that means much longer could easily be 5 minutes, right? That's 3 more minutes than what it took her. Even though it's much longer, it doesn't really make it a slow death, right? They're still very quick, but hers was slower. That makes me think she was attacked first. It wasn't as effective or efficient. No blood anywhere, right? On hands, feet, clothing. Tells me that's because she was in the water and she was undressed. Purdue says sleuth bunk theory from defense. That dog don't hunt. I like that. Not Odin's. See, I'm not convinced yet. I don't know. I'm not seeing that yet. I want to talk to a few more experts who might think that, yeah, hey, it might be. Don't pee on my leg and say it's raining. Right. And that's the thing. They know for a fact you will never, ever see those crime scene photos. So, what difference does it make what they tell you? You know? Everybody wants to jump on the fantastic voyage. Ooh, we're on the ritual train. This is exciting. It's like True Detective. No, this is real life. This was a bad man. These were two innocent girls, and he could have easily killed those girls. Easily. One man and two 13-year-old girls. I don't know why people are so conflicted about that. Especially if this man is enraged. He doesn't have to hate women. He just has to be pissed off and needs power. How do you get power? Playing God? It's pretty powerful. Try taking that away from somebody. He was going to get that. That's what he was going to get back. Now, I don't know about the undressing. I don't know if he was going to attempt to sexually assault them or if he just planned to kill them and humiliate them. But that's what I think may have happened. His intention was to maybe not go out there and commit a sexual assault, but he was definitely going to get his power back. And that was going to be one of the ways to maybe humiliate them to get that power. And maybe they weren't having it. Like, we're not having it, dude. And they grabbed their clothing from the ground. Maybe he slipped or something or started taking his clothes off. And they're like, let's, bumping each other like, hey, we got to get the hell out of here. On 3, we're going to jet out of here. 1, 2, 3, pick up their clothes in their hand and run. One gets stuck on the bank. Richard Allen's slipping around with his boots in the water. Libby's able to get up and out. Unfortunately, he was able to catch one of the girls. And that's the reason why she wasn't. They have this issue with the blood stated in the defense memorandum. It's because she was in the water. And if she took a severe wound to the neck and that artery, even though it was more than Libby, it was most likely very quick and everything just in the water. And if he's in the water right there, leaves her, runs 50 feet into the woods, and attacks Libby. No ritual, no nothing. That's where she fell. Bumps into a tree, leaves the F looking thing from her horrible wound, and she just falls. Richard Allen walks back to Abby, and I'm wondering if he clothed her in the water. It would be much easier, the weight of a person in the water. So it would make sense. If he's hearing people coming up the trail, he's probably beginning to become paranoid. He's like, if they come across this bridge just like I did and just like Abby and Libby did, what if they come down? What if they see me? They can see me from over there. So he hears there was at least 2 people under the bridge, and then one of those people from under the bridge went onto the bridge with another female that we know was there that day around 3:30. So if we know they're on the bridge crossing all the way to the south end, that is what spooked him. He says if they come down here, if they decide to come down the bridge, which a lot of people do, and come to that creek, they're going to see him there with two naked bodies and blood all over him. Most likely one near the creek and one a little bit further in, and he is completely screwed. So he panics, runs back to the water, and that's why we see some of the clothing in the water, because when they picked up their clothing to run, they dropped some of it. So he most likely redressed her, Abby, in the water because her body would be lighter. And it also wouldn't look so weird if he's carrying a dressed person over his shoulder as opposed to somebody who was undressed, right? So he lays her down next to where Abby fell and begins covering them. And that's why she fell on the shoe and the cell phone and all that stuff, because that just happened to be where Libby dropped the cell phone. He didn't see it. He laid down the bundle of clothing that he was able to grab, and most likely Abby on his shoulder, and just laid her down there, covered them with sticks, and bolted out of there. That's why you have one dressed and one not, in my opinion. And not to be gruesome, but I think it's important to go over those details because to me, it's as clear as day. It could have easily have been one person. And it doesn't even take that much strength. Hold on, guys.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Looks like we got a call. Hello, caller.
Hi, are we live?
We are live.
I've never live calling before, so it's not like StreamYard, that's for sure.
Yeah. What was your name? I didn't catch your name.
Jamie Hicks, I know if their name comes up.
No, I didn't take a look. What do you want me to call you?
Jamie Hicks.
Oh, it's Jamie.
Yeah.
Oh, what's up, Jamie? Sorry, I didn't catch the name when you left it. I turned on my speaker before I caught the name.
Yeah, Jamie Hicks.
How you doing, Jamie?
That's my YouTube name.
Let me see.
I'm doing good. I'm just liking some of your stuff lately. I was going to chime in about it.
Thanks. Let me make sure everybody can hear you. Can you guys all hear Jamie okay? Let me zoom down to the bottom. Thank you. Muted. Oh, I was muted earlier for a while. I didn't know. Hey, True Crime Web. Let's hear what the professional says. Offenders' profiles are developed by dynamics, evidence located at the crime scene. Not vice versa, right? Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Okay, let me go all the way.
Is that what True Crime Web just said, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
He's so rad. He's the one that's made me kind of be like lone wolf theory. Like when he explained it on his channel, it was like, I don't know. I feel like Steve's like a crime scene savant, though.
No, he's a professional. And I think that's what it takes is you need to watch these professionals when they're offering this kind of thing to us, when they're offering their services and they're willing and they're interested to do these things. And we have to pay close attention and start downloading that data. We can't just hear some strange theory and then be all gung-ho about it. That's reckless. In my opinion.
When he laid the crime scene out, or just the flow of it, I was like, wow, I could totally see it that way. And before, I was not lone wolf theory at all.
Yeah, it took 7 minutes.
No way in my mind to rectify two pedophiles, one luring. It just was, to me, statistically impossible to have two of these scenarios happening together and them not be related. Like, how can it not? That's what I was thinking. But I totally am kind of seeing this lone wolf theory.
Yeah, especially when you look at the crime scene, right? Look at this.
Right. It does. It looks sloppy. This whole Odinist thing is just so irritating to me.
And I mean, there could be some truth to it, but I'm still watching. I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm watching people like Steve. I'm talking with as many Odin
There's no truth. There might be
people that know
some
what they're
like
talking
truth
about.
that these people exist, but to me, it's mostly people that like. Okay, I read the documents, or I was trying to on my channel, and some of it sounded so familiar to me. It's literally, to me, cut and pasted from Discord, like other people's theories that they don't want to give up on. They've done a lot of research. They put a lot of time and effort into this, and it's like they just don't want to, a professional abandons theories based on evidence. If the evidence is not leading you in one direction, you're not going to just like make it up as you go along.
Well, the one part that I can't get over is their claims about these polygraphs, about the women in these men's lives that they're accusing. A lot of them are saying, hey, these guys told us that they participated in it. And not only that they participated, but they actually went and took polygraph tests, according to the defense team. And
nowadays, people will lie about stuff like that. They will clout chase off the weirdest things possible. I mean, look at this whole situation we have with Keegan. I mean, look at all the honey bun money he acquired. Like getting money off of the situation. I mean, it is what it is. But
well, that brings up a good point here. Let me finish my thought here. Okay, so in the documents, this goes back to what we were saying and what even Steve said. You shouldn't have your theory and then tie it to the crime scene. You should be able to take everything you see at the crime scene, and that should lead you to a theory.
Good point.
So these guys were looking through the information, and they had some information about this Elvis guy, and apparently he told one of the women in his life, said that he told her that he put horns on Abby because she was a bad girl. Okay, so now they're going to go back to the crime scene photo and look for horns, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these random sticks that could just be laying there are now, guess what they are? They're horns. Were they horns to begin with? No, but they are now.
I see what you're saying. I honestly just think Richard Allen threw some shit on top of them and was like trying to cover it up.
Yeah, and that's what I learned.
Me. Like I mean, I give every theory a fair chance. I really do. But to me, some of the wording in the documents, like that whole thing. Well, most people think Charles Manson was a serial killer, but he's really not. Like my boyfriend says that all the time, and he was in this Discord group. I went back and made him check the date of when he said that, because a lot of the stuff that was in those documents is shit that I've seen other places. It's almost, and just the way it was worded too. I mean, it was sloppy, unprofessional. I don't know. I'm just disgusted with those documents.
Well, it didn't need to be professional. It wasn't offered to a professional audience. It was offered to people like me.
Yeah.
I try to be professional, but I'm not a trained professional with this. I'm learning, and yes, I've learned a lot, and I'm learning more because I'm open to learning. But this was totally a trial by this was a public trial.
Yeah.
And we're never going to see any of the evidence. So how are we going to go ahead and dispute anything that they're saying or come up with our own opinions? So it was really brilliant, the same way that investigators used social media in the online sleuthing community to try to uncover something on the Anthony Shots profile. You remember that? Late at night.
I do remember that.
Yeah, late at night they dropped it online on YouTube.
Yeah, they like punted it over to the YouTubers.
Oh yeah.
To deep dive on that.
Yeah, and what did we do? We dug up everything. Well, guess what the defense is doing? They're using a move right out of that playbook. They're going to weaponize the online sleuthing community to look over here because they know they don't have to provide any proof to us. Because we love...
I really wish they would have just solved this case early on, because so many, like, Delphi has just brought out the weirdos. I mean, I'm in other true crime communities, but this one takes the cake with people that have clout chased off this, like, horrific tragedy,
Yeah, and there's a
Like
weird
people
weird
telling their family
trolls.
members that they're possibly related, because I believe the girls did pass those follies.
Yeah,
But why would you tell? I don't know.
and another
People
thing
just
that's happening that's coming from all of this defense stuff is people are like comparing random people again. Have you noticed that? They're like, "Oh, this might be the
yeah.
Bee Gees." So now they're open to the idea that it's not Richard Allen. They're not even concerned with these new POIs anymore. They've just accepted the fact that it's
Right.
possibly not Richard Allen. So kudos to the defense team for making that possible. They made the impossible possible.
I mean, the Delphi Discords are like the best players on Richard Allen's defense team.
Manipulators, they're good at it because all they have to do, they want to get off. They want to get off. It's Dennis, what's his Dennis Reynolds from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You want to get off with me?
I don't know.
That's what what he does is he convinces people of lies and he just wants to manipulate them. He gets off on it.
Well, that's the defense team of Richard Allen. But yeah, I mean, I guess that is a smart move to make if they want, to get their client off. And everybody does have the right to a defense. But like this whole Odinism thing, like I'm glad that you brought some visuals out because, some people are just going to hear this and they're going to hear there was a letter F on the tree and they're not going to actually, like if you actually look what was there, I mean, you can interpret it maybe as that, but it's way more subjective than those documents try to lead people to believe. I feel like they were trying to convince me so hard that it was Odinism.
Yeah. And the good news is that it doesn't matter what these weird YouTubers believe or what information they send to the defense team because they still have to prove it in court, right? They can convince us all they want. But the truth is, we could be 100% convinced. They got to convince a jury.
Well, with the, people in that town and the corruption, I mean, picking jurors might be hard too because they might want to believe that everybody in Delphi is somehow connected.
Yeah, Freemasonry and all that stuff too. That's why that they're not going after Brad Holder, right? Because he's a Freemason and Nick McClelland's a Freemason. That's why.
I know it's getting so complicated and just like it really. I think you're right. I think it was a sloppy crime scene, and that about like having the body in the water and dressing it. That is so smart. Like,
does that make sense?
Of that, but that does make total sense.
Well, especially if she fell in the water and all her clothes are right there, and she's hearing people over there on the bridge. I mean, what's better, carrying somebody that's naked over your shoulder or somebody that's clothed?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're going to get up and stand up.
Libby's clothes would be bigger too, and that would explain why he put them on Abby.
I don't think he knew the difference.
It would be easier.
I don't think he knew the difference.
Maybe he just realized.
I don't think he cared. I just think he wanted her clothed. Because if somebody,
do you think Richard Allen would have picked a different victim had it been like somebody else?
I don't know if he was even looking for a victim. I think he might have just went off the rails. He might have been feeling like some kind of way, like extremely vulnerable, very powerless. I mean, working at CVS, how are you going to pay for some big wedding? That's got to be stressful.
Yeah, I imagine.
I mean, you can probably pay for a wedding, and I'm sure he had money, him and his wife, but that's probably going to be all your money. It's going to be stressful. And then your brother just died, and the way that his wife looked up to his brother, and from what I read about his brother,
the thing I would think maybe he didn't snap was because he came fully armed,
Yeah, and I wonder if he might even have been suicidal. Maybe because that's a way to gain power too. I'm going to do things on my terms. But yeah,
I just hope that this case calms down a little bit and people get off this Odinism crap. And go back to, let's think about the things that we do have, the evidence that we do have, and the fact that Richard Allen, he did confess to it like 5 times. And honestly, I believe those, who, what was that guy's name? Doug Rice. Remember when he meet with like one of the witnesses,
mm-hmm.
and she described them and like he looks like that one other guy that was Doug Rice's POI, but they made this sketch and
I'll
they
show it
put
to you.
a face covering over him, and that to me looked so damn spot on. And I just think that she described Richard Allen, and I think she saw him, and I think that she was right, you know.
This was the picture that they were looking at. This is Duvall. He was convicted a long time ago of a very violent crime, very similar, um, involving a knife to cutting a child's throat, sexual assault. You know, he did his time.
Yeah, horrible shit. Like,
Yeah, he's a very definitely they definitely had to look at him, right? But if you look at him, he could be brothers with Richard Allen.
cousins, like definitely.
So,
And especially if there was a face covering. I mean, and it's like when you see the, you know, what do they call them, the juvenile witnesses? I think they did see Richard Allen, and I think
so do
that,
I.
you know, she described him.
And she doesn't
And I
have.
don't, you know, you can't take away that totally credible sighting
Mm-hmm.
for Muddy Bloody witness who's like changed it up several times now.
And the truth is, they don't have to say, "Well, I saw Richard Allen." All they have to say is, "The guy that I saw is the guy in Libby's video." Because Richard Allen goes ahead and tells on himself and says, "Well, I was the guy they saw because I saw them as also right at that same time." So they're kind of.
Well, guys, the juvenile witness, she described the person she saw. Didn't she describe Bridge Guy before the Bridge Guy photo came out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, that's totally credible to me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Totally credible. Well, I just wanted to jump on here and say hello. I've never done a call-in before, so I didn't know if my phone would actually, like, was capable, but thanks for having me on, and Blue Crew, we're the best over here. Love you guys.
Thank you, Jamie.
Peace.
Peace out. Awesome call. Jamie's a badass. She rocks. Thank you, Jamie. Good conversation. Good points. All right, guys, we're going to hang out for maybe another 20 minutes. We'll hang out in the chat. Yeah, Norse mythology. And a lot of people who practice that find it very offensive when you say use the term Odinism or Odinites. Apparently those are terms used by that whole racial part of it all. All right, let's see if you guys have any questions here before we get out of here. Yeah, that's plenty of money right there, especially with the secondary income, being a manager. But yeah, that's going to break the bank. And what's really crazy, another thing that I forgot to mention to you guys, Kathy Allen, before the murders in December, uh, um, early, actually, I think it might have been October. Well, her brother passed away in September, complications from a motorcycle accident, and somebody hacked into his Facebook. Somebody had hacked into his Facebook and was saying all this messed up stuff, right? And Kathy was talking about it on her Facebook, calling this person a monster, and that she's got to figure out a way to go in and memorialize his Facebook and get rid of all, regain control over his account. So somebody hacked her brother. Now, who was that monster? Now, who is a potential monster in her life right now? Richard Allen. So that could have very well have been Richard Allen. You know, and if you look at some of the old posts, she looked up to him a lot, and apparently he spent like a lot of his time at the church. He was like very religious and kind of like I don't know, I guess a good example is the way, from everything I read, he was a really good dude. Everybody had a high opinion of him. So I'm wondering if maybe Richard Allen's wife was holding him up, trying to hold him up to that standard. GP, good to see you. I still believe that when he went into the woods, he always had a gun and knife and whatever, just a normal everyday thing for him. Yeah, that could be. And that's how it is for a lot of men. You know, they conceal carry and then they just happen to carry a pocket knife. Very good point. And that could have been the case. All right, guys, we are going to shut down this phone line because we're getting out of here. Shout out to Jamie for calling in. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, so remember, if the defense is correct, what Barbara was saying today on the interview room is yes, that Abby was most likely on the left. Because they're saying that this rune says hail and this is supposed to be Odin. In order for that to read correctly, Abby would have to be on the left. Anna Mason 151. I think it's alarming that full names of witnesses were used publicly before trial in those documents. Yeah, I felt bad for him. You know, if these, yeah, they didn't protect him at all, huh? Jeez. Good luck getting them to testify. Yeah, I plead the fifth, buddy. You just almost got me killed. See, and that just kind of goes to show if the defense really thought that these guys were killers and dangerous, they wouldn't have put that information out there. What are you trying to do? Get these witnesses killed so you can get your guy off? I really hope that's not what they were doing. That's extremely reckless. Yeah, Anna, I'm thinking something like that happened. You know, like prey caught in a spider web. It's a good point, Peace Train. What's going on with these tentacles? There's a lot we don't know. I say we know maybe now 15%. Yeah, pretty close match, huh? Yeah, that's a good point, Mandy. Like maybe we're looking at a different ritual, right? And when they explained this to me, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, because is Odinism, quote unquote, non secular? And I don't think anybody saw him face to face. I think the closest they came to face was on the road, muddy and bloody. Otherwise, his head was down. He's walking quickly. And that's kind of, yeah, you know, it makes you wonder, like, why was he walking quickly past these girls like he was trying to hide from them? Like he had plans, you know, like I'm going somewhere. I'm busy. It's the only part that makes me think they could have been lured. And I still think so. I think it is possible that anybody else that was acting may have not even been there that day. Could have just helped to catfish and lure them, target them. Tex 45, what's up? Do you think prosecutors have more evidence than they are saying? No. I think they might have some new discovery, but I think the defense has all the evidence, but they're only saying the things that fit their narrative. If they said anything else, it's going to make the dude look guilty. They're not going to give us that information. So they're just, you know, they're spoon feeding us right now. And man, everybody's putting on their little bib, getting in their high chair, and they're going, yes, here comes the airplane. Oh, that's a big boy. That's what I see when I see a lot of these YouTubers and people, these troll comments. Like, they're just totally convinced. And I'm not here to tell them that they're wrong. I'm just saying, how are you convinced? You're obviously had your mind made up already. All right, let's go to a couple more comments here. Just because it has Odinistic signatures doesn't mean real Odinite did it. Yeah, that's true. Could be somebody kind of mixing rituals. I've seen a lot of Satanism that uses Wicca and Norse mythology and things like that. It's like whatever will help me with my spell. I need a little bit of that. Give me a little bit of this. No, that's not the correct term. Can't remember. Syncretism, I think, is the word. Am I saying that right, guys? Syncretism? Syncretism? Spelled with a C, but it sounds like a G. Syncretism. It's when you're mixing two religious beliefs. But I just don't know how quote unquote Odinism is non secular. I'm not even sure Ives ever even said non secular. Pretty sure he did. But we know if you say too much, you might want to go ahead and try to backtrack it. Sparky Doo. Yeah, isn't that creepy? Think about it. If the brother was using the internet at the home, or he was at the brother's home, or, shared a computer at some point, he would have access to that. Yeah, this dude could be responsible for a lot of creepy shit, and we won't, we'll never know. All right, guys. Well, that is all my time. Sorry, I wish I could hang. I was just really inspired to talk with you guys after hearing Chris McDonough talk on the interview room. It was some really good conversation going on. I like his approach. It's very easy to follow. Yep, always are, Anna. Hey, what's up, Res Kid? Yep, 100%. They're creating doubt. And they're doing a good job. And it's fine if they create doubt on YouTube. It's really pointless if you think about it. They just don't want us digging up anything new. Imagine somebody finding Richard Allen's Facebook that he deleted mysteriously around the New Direction presser. From what I understand, locals have told me that, yeah, he had a Facebook all the way up until 2018, and it's gone. So they don't want us finding that in one of the thousands of archive websites that are out there that randomly grab Facebook information. They don't want you finding that. Lady Monet says Richard Allen had enough phones for social media. The brother was everything Allen was not. That's what almost made it seem like he was made to feel inferior. Like, why can't you be like my brother? Talked to two of Richard Allen's old school friends. They rode with him. One was Richard Allen was his ride to school. And he said, man, Richard Allen was the quietest person I had ever met all through high school. He also told me, and this is something that I think Barbara McDonald, no, it wasn't Barbara. Somebody got it wrong today, that he clarified for me. And I had the wrong information at first too, but he said that they were not high school sweethearts. That, yeah, they got married sometime shortly after high school, but they were not high school sweethearts. And that I quote. Alrighty, guys. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Hit the like button if you could on the way out. Replay crew, shout out to you. Leave a comment. I'll come check back on you guys periodically. Let me know what you think. And you guys have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.